I wasn't, didn't understand quite as well as, or do as quite as well as I thought I was doing with putting things in practice, because on the guessing, it was really easy to do what it seemed to be really easy to do what I was suggesting people should do. But on the concept, I used to think there was something wrong with the area in the front because I couldn't sort of do it, obviously. Do the same thing as I did with the guessing. I did because of this sort of loose chain and everything. Well, that meant I couldn't actually sort of do the connection the way that I thought was possible. But after a while, I think it's also possible. Also possible to do the things that we've been talking about on the concept. But I see a lot of people, especially in the last while since I've been in New Zealand, who haven't been picking up the concept with their feet the same way as they're trying to pick up in the boat. You know, I see a lot of people having to catch it here in their arms to be able to get hold of the machine. So what I've got to sort of try and do here is just sort of demonstrate some of the ways that perhaps go through with an erg to get things in a way that is relaxing and does come up with the right end result, I think. So, you know, for a start, I mean, you actually can just have people just rowing with their feet on the floor, for example. I mean, you don't have to row get everything buckled into here. You just, you know, there, and then you can just get people just into the idea that all you got to do is move your legs forward and move your legs back, and you've got a connection. So, you know, that type of system is quite good starting with, in that you know, people are then, you know, between the pressure on their foot here and their back, they're then just able to get connected through the handle, and they're not connecting through here. They just got their arms really loose with this sort of pencil grip that I talked about before. The handle supported, not sort of here, but just supported by being loose and not putting pressure on it, and basically just thinking about moving the seat forward and back, and just allowing the handle to, you know, to lift up as at this point here, just allowing it to lift off, and at the same time just moving off with the feet. So you know, once people have got that, you just put one foot in and start to do the same thing. That way, oops, I don't know how long this is going to last. But once a day, I won't sort of go too far forward. I'll mess my back up a bit. So you can use this leg then as a bit of support to make sure that you're able to balance or keep this one coming forward. So people can then just still do the same, just lifting up the handle, and then the leg is connected up, ready to push off. Okay, so do one side, do the other side, and then once you get that going, then they can start to get the whole thing. I have to tighten these up more than usual. Then they can get this feeling of just coming up and being connected through the handle. Just lift the handle up, a little bit of movement backwards, puts the pressure between, well, the connection between here and here, which allows the legs even to the pressure still through your feet, but your legs are then able to do this push off that I've been talking about when you want it to. So it's this sort of thing. Not the best shoes to have on here to have. Okay, so you get this hands coming up and just connecting with this loose hand up into this area, not up in here, not tight, and you can start to connect onto the machine. The pressure's firmly here. So normally I rope somewhere around there, but so I've got a bit of that problem at the moment, so I'll only be rowing about half slides. But you know, you still connect at that point, and you get this hanging through here to here. You feel it through here, you feel it through there, and you've got it. If you think about it, yep, I can feel it on the feet. But I'm not going to be thinking about all those points at once. but I just check them out. Yeah, it's on my feet. Now I want to see, and I know, yeah, it's in my fingers. I'm not pulling with my hands, but I know the pressure's in my fingers. I want to think about it. Yep, it's in my back. So you can isolate these points, but I don't. For me, sometimes people say, "Have you got it on your feet?" And I have to think about it the next stroke because I might have been realising it was in my back or my hands or something. So, and then once I've got that working, then I can start to think about, by listening to the machine, I've got some idea when I should give it a good push. So each time, so I'm just there looking for the leg drive. So the timing the legs, they already were connected, it was just a matter of timing them to, in this case, the machine, the same way as I time them to the water normally if I was rowing. So it's getting that, and then once the legs are working there, then my back's just going to continue with the pressure. Okay, so once I get that on, then I'm going to start to go as my legs are going to go down, I'm going to be starting to sort of claw at the handle. And that thing that Dan was talking about before, getting the back fixed, drawing the handle through. And this is not taking the hands here, just actually allowing the handle to come back naturally, as it will, because it's just attached on the end of here, and as soon as I'm doing a little bit of movement here, I'm not sort of pulling at it, just there, and just by drawing through from this point here rather than through the wrist point here, if I just let my arm out and then pull my elbow back, then the handle's going to come with me. So I use, if you like, something ahead of the handle to make it move. Instead of using the bit that's attached to it, I try to use the bit before that. So I'm using the elbow and the bicep, for example, to pull the handle rather than the hand itself. So I'm just drawing. It's a slower draw, but it ends up being an accelerated draw. Okay. Then once I want to get my back in, I'll just extend the handle out and start, and I'm only going to do a little bit here, but I'll start with my back. So I haven't started to pull with my arms or my shoulders, it's getting my back in here. So once I've got my back on, then I can just pull the handle through. Okay, so from there, if I can go up, I can just fit on my feet, really finding that I can find it with my feet at this point here. So I find it with my feet, come on my back. So I just try to build up by leaving my arms hanging and develop through my legs and back, so that this becomes a sort of logical progression of acceleration, if you like. And if I was, say, normal, flexibility-wise today, then I'd just go up and slot this into the right by the cage there, and carry on out again. But haven't got that flexibility today. Some ways that you can actually sort of get to manoeuvre the handle so that you have got it loose and you have got it relaxed. You can row, I'm sure you do anyway, but if you get people to sort of row quite relaxed, they can rotate their handle around, for example. You can come up, take one here at the inside of it and roll it over the top. Maybe do here, put one out underneath. Maybe one over the top, one underneath. Maybe change it around the other side. Just row with a couple of fingers, maybe one finger, put a couple on, people get the idea that this, they can actually put this to here just by using this as a connection. Then you haven't got this catch where people come out here and sort of going, oh, here to catch the earth. So just rolling up and catch. The bit you're going to do like this, you just do it here, or through your legs and your back, and just connect up into here. One way you can actually do that, get your back connection. Sometimes I'll get people, I'll put a weight belt or something around here so they don't even have to have their arms, but they can hold it here and just get them to go up and back like this. So then they can see that their back that's connected in, the legs pushing out. Then just say, okay, extend your arms out, even here for example, and do the same thing. So extend them right out, but just do the same thing as you're doing when you got them here. So it's just that sort of idea. Put it there, do the same thing. Okay, so yeah, you can just isolate by do certain things by using, say, other systems of tying this into here or whatever, however you want to do it. But so you can get your back isolated onto the machine, and it'll help you quite a lot to find the strokes. And to get your arms and back really relaxed. Another way, you can just sort of put your arms here, around here, and then you can really feel your feel yourself hanging in the back. You can feel the connection around this area. So basically for me, I think I read something from Al Rosenberg once, who was an American coach, and about sort of taking a chainsaw and cutting yourself off from about here, and then you're about right for rowing. So you think about using this section through here rather than this bit around here. So those are some sort of basic things that you can do. You can use the rhythm or the noise of the machine to help you to so you just arrive really at the last moment. Pick it up and say I'm only on a short slide here, so it's the right moment to go again. Okay, so there's a time that I may as well make the most of the machine before I need to do it again. Okay, I mean there are times with workouts where you want to rate at certain speeds, and you can still do the same thing. Doesn't mean to say you've got to rush just to go higher rate. So these are some of the things that you can do. I'm not an advertiser for concept, but for me personally, I find that their new model is really useful, especially not very strong. So you can put it down at number 1 or number 2. It's really good. I think the way they're developing this is pretty good. So that gives you a more of a range of where you want people to work from. So and then you can sort of work out, if you've got somebody 13-year-old and they're only strong enough to do it on level 2, then you do the same. But basically, if you get this feeling of really just hanging off it, being patient, just knowing that there's a point where you need to just draw the hand through. This is just a video that, I just basically we don't normally do too much of this sort of thing, but in terms of, this was a special sort of a time I said, I better make a bit of video for what's going on here. So this was this idea of being balanced, being approaching, and getting the feeling that they can balance forward and balance back on the way forward, so that then they're totally in control of the situation, especially when he's on his own. I mean, it's going to be not so good with a pair, but but you can do it in a four with two people obviously, but here, and then he's just, as he's approaching the front, just slipping the blade to the water. Just happened to be the two people available at the time, but he's just lifting this handle and just connecting up to his feet. So these are just a few exercises that started from this sort of the roll up and put in. Okay, so he's able to be there at that point. And so now they're trying to do it together, but he'll try to maintain that with the two guys working. So now he has to adjust obviously to a bit of an imbalance problem plus the speed of the boat now, but he's trying now to get the same thing as he's coming forward and getting himself placed. So this is this other one working from the other end of the stroke, just making sure that everything's fixed firmly at the finish and drawing with the arms to that point. I mean, you've probably all done them before anyway, but here's a bit of video. He was certainly one who used to roll like this. He'd pull his arm like this, and so what I'm trying to get him to do here, just put the blade and try to. He's not really doing it as well as he should be, but putting the blade in and leaving it there a moment till he can just pull with his elbows through, more forearms and elbows. But you've got to be quite well coordinated to do that. But that was a bit better, that last one, where he just tried to hold it and before he pulled it. Or try to let it go with the movement and then just draw it after it's already made its own contact, basically. So it's just, again, trying to set the blade and work as I was trying to work over on the erg there, just starting it with the back a bit, seeing what sort of back was there. Now I just let him come up now and onto his legs and hopefully carry on with this, because his problem was more at the finish. He was sort of finishing himself here and wasn't. And now he's a bit more free, just here and back and around and out again. And he's able to get up on his feet, he's able to keep his legs there at that last moment to make that entry, or he's trying to anyway. Right, so he gets up, stays there, gets in. He won't be able to do it as well in the pair, but he's got full possibilities with his leg drive. Okay, so here's trying to get them to hang off their inside arm and wait for the pressure, that pressure we were talking about before. Just be waiting for it, and then it's coming, and then they can work their legs off and draw their arms through. So, they're not pulling it, not trying to pull their arm like this at the start, just trying to leave it there. As you can see, there are a few problems with the balance, but they're trying to leave the arm and then just accelerate it through. I think it was good to read, and I think it was Mike's practice about the leverage you can get on there, that you must get from your inside arm in the second half of the stroke, not pulling around on the outside. The leverage quotient or whatever, portion, whatever, changes as you're coming through the stroke. You've got more out here, but at a certain point you've then got more on the inside. So coming towards it, in the second part, you'd be drawing the inside arm pressure, with pressure in both hands, but there's a change of emphasis from the outside, if I was on the stroke side, to the inside as I'm finishing. And that gives you that leverage, and also I can get people to actually sit there and really pull their shoulder back, rotate it around as an exercise. You can actually rotate the shoulder around and then pull the handle through. So you get that inside arm working the finish better. Here, he's not really getting this as well as he should, but here was just an idea of placing the blade out with the outside hand and trying to hold it there. That was a better one. What I'll do sometimes, have the other person just turn around and try to pull the handle forward as he's coming forward. While he's sitting there, just try to guide his handle out so that it keeps going out while he starts his movement in the other direction. This is again, there's a point on there where they're doing some exercise as well, so we'll just find it in a minute. Yeah, it's just a little bit of this, and then it changes a couple of exercises on it. So just let it run through. It's the same sort of thing as before. These are at different times, obviously, that these guys are training, and but I think you'll see the similarity between what they're doing and what all the other boats have been doing, all the other people in the boats have been doing. And I think that's the main message, I guess, is that you have there's actually a sort of a trademark that you put on your boats. They shouldn't be very much different from anybody else, and there's no point in having a trademark if it's a slow boat. But you want one that you really want a national type situation where British crews look like this. But then you've got one that you can see. Well, there's a little bit of you in that one, a bit of Steve in this one, a bit of somebody else in that one. But basically, there should be a system that says, this is what we're going to overall how we're going to look. And as long it has to be something. Obviously, in my case, the head coach can say, look, this really works. Let's if you've got any better ideas, if you haven't, let's do this. Or I say, well, yeah, okay, I want to listen to what you got to say, but it's going to be a pretty good argument because we've had quite a lot of success with these other things. But there has to be something that you really believe and that you can coach. And I didn't row like this because I didn't get coached much when I was, I guess, but also rowed a lot it was upper body rowing, a lot of it. But now whenever I go rowing, I row the way of a coach. And I think that's important too, that if you're a coach, that you don't, when you step in a boat, you just think, well, I never learned that, because you're teaching all the time. Everything you're saying to other people must be going through yourself. And so when you step in a boat, now you would automatically row, as far as I'm concerned, the way that you're coaching people, not the way maybe you learned to row. And so it's really important that you can actually make the change. It also helps your coaching a lot more if you can actually, if you're really doing what you're saying when you go out and row. So for example, I have no qualms about going out and rowing with anybody. It's just something I expect that I can do. Okay, so guys are working on things, and not all. But for me, I know this is how well he works and how well he doesn't work. For me, this is a pretty good. He's rowing really well here for him because he is getting himself pretty well connected at the front, and he is able to accelerate the boat. This guy here is not quite on it because he's sort of a bit slow, and he's not quite getting his body weight. He's sort of on his seat rather than getting his body weight back on his feet. But this is just some days people are doing better things than others. But he was always pretty complicated. In fact, he only rowed for. He was a sculler who changed to rowing, and because he's really tall. He's 2 metres tall, and sort of few problems with coordination. But basically didn't really know too many rowing positions, which is not a bad thing anyway. But he had a lot of problems getting because he rowed sort of with his arms and shoulders like this, and then he'd sort of pull out like this. This was the year before, and he'd sort of come out of here and go out to there. But so it's here. I was just trying to get him to relax here, and then also, as I said to you before, he was a bit slow. just trying to get them to go into the water. So do quite a few exercises going in the water, just dropping out and just going in the water, just dropping out and extending into the water, and then just taking it out and extending it all the way to catch. And so here he's just going to drop out and go into the water from here. Okay. See, I'm trying to tell him now not to move his shoulder area, just to move his hands out and the shoulder will come around, which is what Steve's got in his little thing on technique too. So I mean, you let your handle lead your body, you don't move your body out with your handle. That was better like that. So you just come out here and it sets it out and it's gone. I think the other thing to make, I mean, he's quite tall and long limbed, so it's quite reasonably easy for him anyway. But you know, one of the things that he is sort of sitting here and doing that rather than sitting here and doing this, and it just makes for an easy way of getting length without looking like you're going for length when you're just sort of going for the point out over the rigger. He tends to grip his oar more than what I've been talking about, but as you see, you've seen, I think, enough of the other people who are not to know that that's where people are heading for. So now from there, he just comes out and does the same thing, but he's in the water. So he just takes this one movement and now just makes it into a full movement, so that his blade's going in just before his feet. So he gets this connection point quite easily by just doing that same idea, put the blade, and he's obviously got his foot connected at the same time. So I'm actually telling him to just a little bit of pressure off the foot stretch. Okay, so that's getting him in the water and timing those legs at the same point. Okay, so now I get a bit of half slide here, just seeing if everybody can get their legs on at half slide. I think half slide or quarter slide even, or back and forth between half and quarter, is really good to see if people really have got their legs connected in that second half of the stroke. Because you see quite a lot of people, sometimes you get sucked in actually, you see some slides really going bang and think, oh, that guy's really moving their legs well, but they might just be pushing a whole lot of foot stretch and not really moving the blade. So I'd be always really wary of really fast driving legs, because if there's water being held up against those legs, they're not going to move too fast, especially in the first part. Okay, so he's one who always has to pull at his handle, so it's quite, it's difficult for him to, but he's getting better at it, just getting on with his, using the legs back through that second half. So they're really looking to leg it and draw the arms, and it's only, as I say, off the short slide. So now just getting to speed the whole thing up, so. But in fact, I don't spend a whole lot of time on sort of exercise type things. I think it's important that you do some, but as I said earlier on, the basis of getting these things in place is to do the mileage with the idea, and getting long periods of time when you're just working into the type of movement that you're looking to get people to do. But I think this idea of being loose comes clear here, where they can be finished, but they can be moving because everything's pretty loose. He's a bit tight, so he still has this bit of a problem there. But basically, they can move quite comfortably because they're not putting tension to stiffness as they're coming forward and as they're going to the catch. They're a bit, I don't care if they're rushing at the moment. I just want them to get out and get in quickly, and then after that I can slow the slide down, or they can slow the slide down. So I tend to work to get something done. Say I want quickness, and then I'll move the slide slower. Okay, here's one we use quite a lot. Just coming up and moving off. So just come up, sit at the back, and move off again. And they get this feeling of yep there, and then just away and accelerate out. So they just find the right point that they're going to actually accelerate again. So they try and time this point, bang together. And so you get this feeling that Now they pick up their oars and do the same thing. So just go and to try to do that same, just moving. So they just move, they don't care about where their blade is, they try, I mean obviously we're trying to get everything geared up properly, but the most thing I'm interested in is getting the right movement from people. Instead of concentrating on getting to make sure the catch is right, or whatever the way you want it, for me it's just more important that they move right, and you slot the blade in and into the movement that you're creating, rather than putting the catch right or whatever. So it's a bit more sort of a round and round movement. Okay. From this here, you know, we've really got to break down the complex skills into simple parts. I don't know how complex they are. I mean, I said before, I mentioned gymnastics, and I mean, we've got nothing to do really compared to what people are coaching a lot of other sports have got to do. I can't remember the number, but I don't know how many possibilities there are for golf shots. There's hundreds of them. But really, there's only sort of one basic thing we're doing, isn't it? So it's not as if we've got to be too complicated about everything. But anyway, if you need to break down the skills into, I'd say, maybe it's complex, I wouldn't probably even bother about, but the skills into the simple parts. So for me, the simple parts are the sort of things I was trying to isolate here on the erg, and with some of the exercises that you saw there, I'll try to find out the simplest way to get the blade in the water, and then the simplest way to get it out again and get your weight back on your feet. So to keep the whole thing, you know, really simple, and as I said again in the last session, you know, if people can do this, even if they're not strong, I've seen one of the things I've really noticed in New Zealand is because there weren't very many women rowing in Switzerland, but it's in New Zealand it's more women than men, I think, is that we have a lot of young girls' school crews that are going relatively fast without any power. They're just going around and making a good movement. And if you can teach people to make a good movement and a free, easy-going movement, I think you find that you've got them going fast. And once they're in the movement, okay, you're going to, they'll get better timed into that. They'll get more strength on the blade, and as they get older, they get stronger, and you'll end up with those people rowing, continuing to row in a good, easy movement and getting faster and faster as they get stronger. So the thing you have to watch, I'm sure, is that as people get stronger, they don't try and row harder or tougher or whatever. I mean, they've got to just keep the efficiency of their stroke and the toughness in their heads, of course, when they want to go to race, or when they have to hold into some training pieces that you've got them doing it, which are reasonably tough. But basically, it's getting to row into a movement, putting the right emphasis in the right places. So separating out the good bits from the bad bits that people do. It's very easy to always be saying to somebody that you're not doing things the way you want them to. It's got to be really, really, it's really important that you give people feedback especially when they're doing things well, because you often ask people to do something or suggest to people to do something, and then you don't say anything else any more about it. I mean, they row along for another half an hour, and you come off the water and they say, "Oh, did we do that any better?" And you say, "Oh, yeah, you improved a bit." But I mean, you should say it immediately, because you've said change this or try this, and they've tried it, and you can see immediately that they have or they haven't, and you should give some information about that. You should say, yeah, that was, I can see that you're really trying to do something about this, but you need to do this or that or something else. And then as soon as they hit one, you say, hey, that was really good, that one you did. And then they might miss it and you say, remember back that one, two back, the one you got there, 2 or 3 behind, remember that one? And then they hit it again, you say, right, you got it again. Now try and get it, each time. So that you must give people feedback as to how well they're doing in terms of if you like, answering your requests to, or presenting them suggestions that are going to help them to go faster. It's very easy to say, all the best crews, you can see a lot of people doing things that you could criticise. So it's really important that you don't just disregard those points, but if you focus more on the things that they do well, quite often those other things just disappear anyway in the meantime. And that's what I think, focus on the important parts, don't be distracted by the unimportant parts of you know, whether somebody's got their fingers in the right place, or whether they really look the way you really want them to be, exactly the same, doing this and that. You know, everybody's different, and so you have to look and see how effective the person is, rather than if they're really sitting in the way that you want them to sit, or hold the oar, or whatever. I mean, there are some certain things, and you're not going to let a person keep rowing along with their hands together, obviously, when it doesn't give them much room. But you know, you make requests to people that you feel are going to make a difference to what they're doing, not just because you want it like that, or you'd like to see it like this. And then you can focus on the best things. You know, obviously, if they've got their hands off, or basically their hands in a certain position, and that's allowing them to do something quite well, and then you change it because you'd like to see their hands somewhere different, and then they can't do the other skill. Well, you know, you've gone from the important bit to the unimportant bit, and then you lose the progress. And as I say, don't be distracted by sort of things that could have a bearing, but aren't really the meat of the matter. Find a way to correct technique that is a way that's going to get the right response from them. So some people you don't have to explain anything to some people. They just want you to say, you know, what to do. You probably have to do quite a lot of how to do it, but you mightn't have to do too much of why, because a lot of people don't want to know why. They just want you to tell them, and they're happy if you can. Some of them do. Some people do want to know why, though. And in that case, then you need to be really honest. I'm often saying I don't know. You know, you've got to. Normally you got the answer, so that's why you can say you don't know too often. But you know, if you're honest with your answers, and you can say often enough that, you know, you can give a good reason for what people should do, then you find that people are quite accepting of the fact that you just say, well, you know, I don't know about that, I'll go and ask someone else. And I think you should do that. I think you should ask somebody else. I have, with the situation I was at this year, I had 2 crews that I was looking after virtually myself, and then I had 5 crews that I was overseeing for other people. So I'd go out and watch them, but also get them to come over, you know, one of the other coaches to come with me and tell me some things about my crews, because I wanted to know what they thought about it, and what input they could give me to help these people to go faster. So, you know, I think if you can share information, that's a big plus, because it's not something that's a secret, you know. It's really important that people can go share from one to the other. You know, coach in this club can go out perhaps on the water with the one from next door and discuss things that are going on, because we're only in it for the benefit of the people sitting on the seats, pulling on the oars. And we need to find out as much information and much help for them as possible. So, you know, finding a way to actually correct things, you might have to go outside of yourself, and don't be embarrassed about it. It's important that you can call on somebody that's going to give you or give them some information that's going to help them to get better. And the important thing is that, you know, that you put it back together again. There's no point in just sort of doing something, some sort of an exercise, and having treated it quite independently of everything else. You've actually, you know, then you need to incorporate that back into the whole thing. So if you think, as I thought with some of these guys, that they wasn't going in the water quick enough, then that could become a problem, because it's different from what they were doing before. To put it in quickly into the stroke might have upset the pattern. So you've got to really make sure that you organise it so that this quickness or whatever you've just changed, in this case into the water, doesn't then get out of context from the rest of the things that you've been doing. But, you know, it doesn't hurt to exaggerate things for a short time and then just put it back into the context. And I will basically I think it's quite good to do some exercises and then not forget about them, but let them be filed away into the computer and just carry on rowing. With this information, if you like, not forgotten, but just stored rather than thought about too much. So, you know, if you give yourself, give themselves enough chance just to row and not be bombarded with a lot of information, just give them the information, let it sink in, and then, as I say, this is why I found this really good, this in a game of tennis book. But you then just you just row along in a sort of a vacuum, but you've got this extra information that you row from. And I think if you can be, if you can get to the point where your people can row without thinking about it, they're there and they're rowing, but they're not actually having to consider what they're doing. Then you're getting a long way towards achieving a really natural sort of way of rowing, and one that's just as easy as walking or running or something else. If you make it complicated, if you make it something that's not natural, well, then that's when you come into problems. Because I don't know of any sport that's sort of geared up like that, where it's something that is quite sort of outside of the, maybe, I don't know how much horses like doing dressage, but that's probably a bit unnatural. But, and you've got to use your legs opposite to what you're taught to do when you're a young horse. But anyway. Okay, so I mean, there's the. I think what you also need is you sort of fix-it exercises that you use to try and help people who might have some problems. And I don't have people going out in the same. I mean, this is just me. It doesn't mean to say it's you, but I don't have people going out and sitting on the back and then moving there and there. I just basically, as soon as I like people to get in the boat and start rowing, and then perhaps 5 minutes later we just stop and look at some aspect of the stroke that I'd perhaps like to look at on this particular row, and then just carry on again. And so unless it's been done for a purpose, to me there's not much point in doing it. If it's just been done because somebody tells them to, and then it loses its input, it loses the impact, loses the importance anyway. Because unless you're doing something without a reason for doing it, it doesn't really achieve anything. If you can have people really, when they are sitting on the back of the slide, that they are really doing what you want them to do, and when they move forward, that they really are working their backs, and that's fine. But if actually it's not occurring, they might as well just get on with a few miles, I reckon. And then you have, for some of the things, you have your own type of exercise. I thought I had some on this video, but I don't seem to. So, did quite a lot of. There was a little bit there, sort of inside arm rowing, where looking to really just leave the blade alone and not pull with it. So I use inside arm rowing quite a lot for getting people not to tug at the handle. I use the outside arm rowing quite a lot for getting people to just sort of place the blade and really hang off their outside of their body here and really feel it through from here to here. So I'm always, this is just me, but I know some people really talk about locking up and rowing off the shoulder here. I don't. I try to get people to keep their shoulders basically square, move around, get the pressure here and then through to here. And that for me, it's quite a lot of compromising that I think you can make to bring about the full effect. If you tighten things up during a stroke, somehow you've got to spend time getting them loose again. And if you can keep them, as I said before, in real terms, they're actually still relaxed, even though they look tight, because they're all connected up, then you score quite a lot of free time, because you're already in that relaxed position when you come out of the finish again to go forward. As I said, just some of the things people just don't really realise what happens with their oars when they go in the water. And I think if you can, sometimes certainly with an 8, you can actually sort of get 4 people to be rowing a stroke. They have to pause at the end of a stroke to wait for a blade to come through, but you can actually get the other 4 people just to square their blade up and just throw it into the water and just sit, then just take themselves back down the slide and wait for their oar to come to them. So, if they get it, after a while it goes through, hey, I don't have to hang on to this oar or really pull on it. If you can actually just get the feeling that they can place it in and somebody else can move it through for them, they can take it out. and then when they have to do it for somebody else, of course, they have to do the other part of that. The other part of that exercise is that the guys, the girls or the guys who are actually, it's the four who are rowing, have to work a bit harder. But between the two exercises, you get a relaxation and you get a power output from the other people. And it's just a matter of really realising that you actually don't. I mean, this is the bugbear for me, and it seems to be for a lot of people. You don't have to pull at the handle to start the stroke, and this seems to be the main problem. People still really not realising that you sort of got to find this way in which you can get tension on the blade right at the start, so that you can use that as if it's sitting in sand or mud or something. The blade's there, and actually just can move your boat past your blade. And if you can actually people can get that without this sort of pulling and straining and bent arms and stuff at the start, and just really hang off the handles loosely, and then things work out a lot more simply.